hello, everyone, and welcome. All right, good evening. We are here. You know what time it is. Welcome to the Slay to Success Talk Show, and this is your host, Rochelle Hemingway. My name, is affectionately called the Slay Queen, and I am the CEO and founder of Slay to Success, which empowers women who are transitioning from the military to civilian life after serving 20 years or more and who want to rediscover their identity. They want to get rid of the negative thinking, that self-doubt so you can go out and do the dang thing, whatever that is. We want to realize those dreams, goals, and aspirations. And I sit down and help you create a transformational plan by my 90-day programs, my 30-day programs, women empowerment events, and many, many other things. I also am the author of the book titled Slay to Success. And as you all know, I'm a United States Air Force 30-year veteran. So welcome in. Let me check out these comments. Let us know where you're coming in from, y'all. Please let us hear and see what is going on with you. I see right here, we got some comments here. Keith is in the building. Let go, he says. Mary is watching on YouTube. That's right, my queen. I got Tiana out here loving the consistency. Hashtag slay on. Yes, my queen. And of course, Keith says, hey, sister. So go ahead and tell us where you're streaming in from. Don't be shy, y'all. Okay. Don't be shy. Tell us what's going on. And we are here, y'all, to highlight men and women who are living a life of service on their own terms, okay? And using the slave philosophies to positively impact this world. And you know the word slave means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, to dream and work hard until you own it. And it's also, y'all know, an acronym. It's stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of command, community, a sense of family, and knowing you are built to last. So before we move on, let's take care of some housekeeping before I bring on our featured guest, our speaker for tonight. So as you all know, I am in this business and I have a Rediscover Your Confidence workshop coming up here soon. If you are a woman who has transitioned 20 years or more in the military and you just need a little bit of help with your confidence, I got something for you. It's a group setting, 4 settings that we're going to have 60 minutes on a Zoom platform every Monday night starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's on 2 October. So scan the QR code, y'all, for the more information, and I hope to see some of you there so you can get out here living this life. I've got so many folks in here. Hey, Kevin, MS in the building. I got Sarah here, Sarah Meyer. Thank you for coming in. Keith is in the Upper Virginia area. Tiana is from Aloha State of Hawaii. That's right. She is viewing in all the way from Hawaii. And of course, I've got Monique here watching on YouTube from Masawa. So we are international tonight. So I thank you all for coming in. Scan the QR code and don't forget to share, subscribe, and like tonight's show because I'm super excited. Okay. I'm way more than super excited for this opportunity we have. Now, when I asked my guest speaker to come on the show, please, he got a busy schedule. Okay. And he has been in this game for a few years now. And he's recently, I say 4 years now, retired from the United States Air Force. He is my retired brother, Chief Master Sergeant, retired Todd Simmons, who is now a CEO and founder of Courageous Alliance Incorporated. So tonight, y'all, we are in for a treat. So I want y'all to clap it up for this distinguished author, internationally sought after speaker, a visionary thought leader, dedicated educator, and a respected veteran in the field of leadership. And we talk about leadership, mindset, and wellness on this show. So I have my pen and my piece of paper ready so that way I can take down notes because he totally inspires me each and every day as he is walking the walk and talking the talk. Now, audience, if you have questions, if you have things that you just want to ask Todd because you know him and those that don't know him as he's talking, make sure you put it in the comments and let me know. And that way we can answer it for it. So put your hands together, clap it up in the chat for one of the GOATs, all right, the greatest of all times in this entrepreneurial game, my Air Force retired Chief Master Sergeant, brother Todd Simmons. All right, Todd, we ready? You know how to, you know how we do on this show. We just like we give it all, right? What's going
No,
on?
go ahead. Can you hear me, Rochelle?
Yeah, yeah. I can.
No. So thank you. I want to say first and foremost, thank you. I was sitting there listening, cringing because folks who know about me, I still, even at 47 years on Earth, I still struggle with like I'm very transparent and vulnerable, right?
Mhm.
And I really struggle with like anybody saying public things about me, like good, even after this long time. But no, I appreciate that. Also, I was listening to everything you were doing, and I know I kind of stole your show for a second, but I will forget if I don't say this. And I was looking at for everyone who's listening, Rochelle is this isn't a retired thing for Rochelle. I've watched you after the day you retired, and we'll talk about consistency in a second. And you have been consistently building your brand. But I want to tell your listeners and your viewers that this has not been your brand since you retired from the Air Force a few years ago. And I just remember back in February of this year, my birthday party. Thank you for
Mhm.
coming. And I did not have the zero memory until my wife said you and my wife connected, and you were that for her in 2005, what you're trying to be for women today. When my wife was transitioning from the military, Yokota Air Base, Japan, and going through the transition, the struggles of transitioning, especially after a really tough deployment to Iraq, and your
Mhm.
class started her on her fitness journey, which led to now being a master yoga instructor. So this isn't a hype or a brand or something Rochelle has cooked up. The genuineness of who she is has been been changing people's lives for decades. And I just want to tell you thank you before we get into anything for my family. Like I had no idea the impact you've had on my family until my birthday this year. So thank you.
Wow. If I was lighter in color, you would see all the red in the face because I'm just so like humbled just to even hear that. But yeah, I've always been kind of this person who really just loves to
Mm.
inspire and motivate others because I had it in me, So I was like, I got a lot to give back, and this is just all that I'm doing in this so-called retirement. I'm gonna put that in air quotes because that's not what we're really doing. Yeah, we're not retired here, because we doing a whole lot of things. So tell the audience a little bit about who you are and like what you do.
Wow. So thank you again. So Todd Simmons, I did serve in the Air Force for 25 years, 7 months, 11 days, and about 90 minutes. Right.
Not like you counting
I wasn't
anything.
counting anything. No, so I did serve in the Air Force. But I know we're going to talk about leadership and entrepreneurship. But at
Mhm,
that time in the Air Force, just a different career. I was one of those folks who never knew I was going to be in the Air Force until that time when we met you. I was actually on my way to separating the Air Force at 10 years, and my wife at the time was an officer.
mhm,
And I wanted to be a public school teacher for $27,000 a year. And why I bring that up is because it's something I always wanted to do. I did not learn very well growing up. I had a learning disability that I later found out as an adult and failed the fourth, ninth grade, high school, about to drop out of high school. And it was when I learned how to learn, I became addicted almost to education. So by the
mm.
time I was a tech sergeant, I was teaching college. So
Right.
so for me, that's what I want to do. I want to give back to people who look like me, who were underserved like me, in communities where people did not invest in me because they didn't have the resources to invest in me. So I want to do that. So my wife separated. I stayed in the Air Force for 25 years, of course, and I continued to teach. I continued to teach college for about 17 years on active duty, and just love that. And so when I retired, decided to retire, I was the Air University command chief, and just naturally, I would be, a lot of devastation happened in COVID, a lot of tragedy. I retired into COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself in COVID also, right? I sat at home up here in the DMV area for 4 months, and I had this LLC that I created, about a year before I retired, and didn't know even what that was. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of business 101 is you don't know what you're doing,
That's
right?
right.
That's the first business
That's the
101.
first line they should have in every book. You don't know what you're doing,
Yeah,
all right?
first business lesson. You have no clue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, that's what everybody thinks, right? Go start an LLC. So I did, right? Bought a
Mm-hmm.
$30 logo, and that has since changed, and was literally sitting at a of all places, a cigar bar with a friend, good friend, still my friend, good friend today. And we
Mm-hmm.
were coming. I said, I'm going to start a business, and we were coming up with names, and we wrote Courageous Leadership, and I loved it. I said Courageous Leadership, and then we said, oh. Later, it became Courageous Leadership Alliance. And then I was like, wow, the lion is what, of course, see a lion behind me is what I kind of my spirit animal. So I started this company, and it's just been a joy and a struggle every day since then. So, why COVID? I say I found myself because I did have a couple of jobs offers
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
naturally what we do. And I don't, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. And I understand that. I'm not saying that everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Right.
But I just sat there and said, and I honestly started working for two companies, what I won't name, but and they, because they were great to me. They did
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong to me. But when I worked for these two companies, I immediately realized in the first 60 days that what I was working for them to do, I had the exact same capability to do on my own.
Right.
So I made a decision. I said, I told my wife, said, give me 2 years and let me figure this out. If it doesn't work out in 2 years, I'll be the first one in line with a suit and tie on Indeed.com.
Right. Because
And
you know what, Todd, when you said you made a decision, because that's usually where people get tripped up on, right? They don't know what, like you said, we don't know what we don't know, but then what they don't do is decide.
yeah,
They just, sit and go, well, I'm just thinking about it. So like what turned you on to say, okay, I'm gonna move away from this job over here that I got to do? And you're saying you knew that you could do the same thing, right? And you were like, so I'm just gonna do it. Like, was it immediate, or did you kind of like?
no, I will tell you what happened in COVID is because we couldn't see each other, right?
Right.
So a lot of what happened in COVID is my circle kind of immediately outside of the military, because 25 years, it's all I knew was who I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of Zoom, because of those opportunities, connect on all of these things that people were popping up, socially, I started popping up on them. I honestly met one mentor, still my mentor today, who I had no idea that this person was the owner of a multi-million dollar company.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in this I was taking a bunch of online things, and again, that expanded my circle. And then the person I was actually working for was 35 years old. Honestly, it was a former NCO in the Air Force
Wow.
that got out and took a chance on himself,
Yeah.
and now owns a multi-million dollar company.
Mm-hmm.
So gracious. And we were here in DC, and we met one day, and he was showing me this huge strategy of how his company was going to, get this enormous contract, and how he was partnership, and how the collaboration worked, and how all of these things work. And he looked at me and he said, you can do this yourself. So it was people who honestly, kind of, I looked at them and I looked within myself and I said, well, I can. But he wasn't, he said that, but he wasn't saying it as it's setting me up for failure. Like, oh, you can do this yourself. And then starting tomorrow, it's just, you're going to be at step 10.
Right.
He told me his story, how he lived in 600 square feet and, and him and his wife struggled, and how they, like years of building this thing, and they're here today because of that sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I honestly felt, I mean, we're retired. You got a lot of military folks, and we were both retirees. I had a safety net, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had more of a safety net than he had. So I was like, so what's stopping me from taking this chance? Because really, it's not financial. It's all mentality And can I really do this thing without any of the safety nets that I've been so accustomed to for 2.5 decades?
Yeah. So, you said a whole lot in there, and that's really like it's going to lead into some very rich conversation that we're going to have. But we met during COVID.
Hmm.
I knew your wife, of course, at Ucoda, but I didn't know you.
Hmm.
And so it wasn't until COVID happened and then these Zooms and, all these virtual things. And then you came up, and then I was like, wait a minute. I think I know his last name at least. And then it was like, yeah, he's still shooting at Yokota. So, it's like, wow, this is just like, it was mind blowing to me. Right. And then you were like, well, we were talking about that struggle, right? So first of all, we're gonna shift to back just a little bit. I want you to talk about maybe some struggles that you had in your transition, and then we're going to talk about the struggles in your business. So when you retired, and you retired in COVID, and it kind of started, the business stuff, what was in that time period that you were kind of like, so you said no safety net, and it's like, what else was going on?
When I retired, to be honest with you, I didn't have time to really focus on the mental health piece,
Mm.
which was occurring because I immediately went into physical health decline, which I haven't shared in a lot of people. Like for me in COVID was really, really rough that first year. I spent 2 different times in Walter Reed. One particular time when my wife had to rush me back to the hospital and drop me off at the ER, and she couldn't even come inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to spend days in the hospital, like looking out of a window after going back and forth, hooked up to all kinds of stuff. And the first time was after a major surgery. I always outward look like the picture of health. And honestly, I've never had a surgery in 25 years of being in the Air Force. Never.
Wow.
Never had a hospitalization, never had a broken bone in my life,
Mhm.
never had anything. And I think a lot of the immediacy of change and stress, the
Mhm.
immediacy and change in my body wasn't accustomed to hiding these things internally.
Oh,
The
yeah.
things that I ignored for so many years
Mm.
came haunting me in the night. And all of a sudden, my body started failing me. And I found myself in the hospital multiple times through surgery, through a lot of alone time and like excruciating pain, and went through about 5 or 6 months of that, which really led into, after that ordeal, really came to a realization of the mental health piece is and I've been transparent about mental health my whole
Oh,
career.
yeah.
But it really was some days, because I retired on a Friday and drove to DC on a Saturday. So it was it was immediacy, and then COVID happened 60 days later.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't get an opportunity to assimilate into my new community. I didn't get an opportunity to really figure it out. And then my wife was going to work every day for a while, and I was in the house by myself, and and everything just kind of and that's why I said that's where that decision came. For a few months, I was doing some things here and there. I was working for some folks, but that "who am I" thing
Yeah.
was really haunting me.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my VA mental health appointment, and man, for my VA claim, and I remember it like they almost had to kick me out of there because I wanted to. I mean, it was like the first time I felt like like I was trying to figure things out, and I was talking about things that I've suppressed for years. So for me, physical and mental health and transition were the biggest 2 challenges for 12 months I had.
Yeah. So, this is for anyone who is transitioning out of the military, like really listening to Todd's story. Like we have been in the mode of just doing, 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 going, 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 going. And as soon as you retired, it's an immediate stop.
Yeah.
It's like abrupt stop. You don't have no schedule. You don't have, any of the meetings that you're looking forward to. You don't have the events and all this stuff. It is you. I mean, if you don't go back into like a regular, or 95 or, some other thing after that, it is you. And so who are you at the end of the day? No uniform on. Okay. No positions, no titles, no cars, no houses, no phones, no emails. Because people didn't need you. They don't need you now.
No.
you step away. And then the other thing is that I had to learn too was, people don't know what a chief is. All right. Regular folks out here who don't know anything about the military, they do not know anything about these ranks. And so when you go into a room and say, hey, I'm retired Chief Master Sergeant so and so, yes, people are going to look at you with 10 heads. Unless you're working in back in the government space and, or federal space, folks are going to be looking at you like you got 10 heads. So there has to be that transition. There has to be that switch,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and that's why I've been deliberate, because I've had this question come up to me a lot, right? I am extremely deliberate, which I started probably well into the end of year one in retirement. Like, I don't use the moniker, just what I chose, and it was deliberate in the beginning because I want to unchief myself. I want to mentally do it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I took deliberate actions to find out, and for example, I had a friend ask me about 2.5 years ago, why did you choose to be an entrepreneur instead of going to get a really good 6-figure job? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, it has nothing to do with the money. I say, for me, I wanted to find out, and I wanted to say this slow because this is for me, what I wanted to find out, if I was as good as they said I was.
Ooh, that is so good.
That was, I said, I just wanted to know. I said, because why I said that, when I retired, there was a job, a contractor that wanted me to subcontract on. It wasn't a bad contract. It was going to be doing something I'm passionate about, what we're talking about now, military transition. It was a cash program. And through that, they wanted me to kind of highlight some mills. So I went back, and, when you retire, they give you your product, which is all your EPRs, your performance reports, right? Mm-hmm. So I look back at 28 performance reports. And what I saw, my airman records were not that great, but anything from senior airman, anything from senior airman to literally command chief of Air University, it all is said is these great glowing comments. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. And I was looking through this stuff, trying to find stuff to send this guy. And I really sat, and I did not take the job, because after I looked at those EPRs for 3 or 4 hours, I questioned. I went, am I really that good? I'm like, I'm not. I wasn't a self-deprecating thing. It was like, am I really that good? Because if I'm really that good, it should be no problem.
No problem.
If I really saved $20 million and save the world, then I should go out here and kill the game.
Well, not only kill the game, slay the game. Okay, yeah, because that's, you know what I'm saying? Because it is true. For how many years? How many EPRs? Been in 23 to 25 to 27 to 30 years. Every one of those say you are the golden child.
You're the greatest.
You are the best thing since sliced bread. And we gonna promote you. Okay, that's what we're trying to do.
And I'm not down in the system at all, because that's the system that created me in that system. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, in this world, those systems do not match.
Exactly.
That system is for what that system, just like any system of any system that you have in any place, Amazon system, Google system, the U.S. military system has their system. Mm-hmm. In that system, I was successful. Right. But that system, in the system of entrepreneurship, in this game, it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. So you're saying that because now we're going to start talking about this, because this is really where it's at, right? So there's no bullets, there's no award packages, there's none of that ever in this entrepreneurial game, if you will. So as you moving through, let's start back at like year one. Year one, you in business. Like, what did that look like for you? What was?
So I developed questions based on my epic failures in year one that I ask everyone today, right?
Okay.
When people say, "Hey, I want to do exactly what you do," which is not offensive comment, because I probably asked that to other people I admired also. So that have changed that to, what what do you want to do, and what do you believe you should be doing, right? So in year one, I had no idea. So the best thing that happened in year one for me, it was myself and two other friends of mine. So I did rely on some skills I had. So the skills I had was, number one, I taught college for 17 years while I was on active duty. During that time, the military sent me to academic curriculum writing, different things. And I got, certified on a lot of different things through the universities I was working on. So I remember a friend of mine from NASA, a friend of mine who's also a former military. So I said, where's your network, right? Your network is your net worth. So I remember talking to a friend, and he works for NASA, and he said, man, I'm in charge of these 30 people or 40 people. They all sitting at home, and some of them are scientists and different things like that. And he said, I know you do development and stuff, and we've never had time to do that, but we're all sitting at home now. He said, could you develop some virtual courses for us? I'm like,
yeah.
Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. But the answer is always yes.
It's always yes.
I had some skill sets in that because I've developed some college courses based on teaching criminal justice, homeland security, but those are defined, degree programs. This is some development stuff, right? So, and I said, absolutely. So I developed these 3 virtuals, got 2 of my friends who were recently retired, but I've worked with them. They were developers and, really smart guys and stuff. So we got together and we taught these virtuals. And then I was like, man, we just taught virtuals for NASA, and I'm like, we might be on to something. So we just developed these whole suite of virtual things. And I'm beyond, that might sound like a huge success story, but let me tell you, I had no idea what to charge them. I had no idea if I was charging too little, too much. I had no idea what to pay my friends. I had no idea what to pay someone who I hired to do some slides. So
you know what, Todd? We never had to think about that when we were in the military. We didn't think about money. We didn't know what cost the value of these programs and stuff we were sent to.
So I would tell you to sum this question up. So I did all of that. I was doing virtuals out the wazoo. I was doing all this stuff. Didn't have any kind of accounting system set up. I looked like success.
Yeah.
But when we finally started doing the books about 10 months into it,
yeah.
I literally was negative in the money.
Yeah.
I made no money.
Yeah. you preach it to the choir in here. I mean, this is
I was
the
like,
way it is.
And then I look back, NASA is a multi-billion-dollar. And
yes.
Then I started getting the mentorship. That's when I say I met one of my mentors. I met 3 mentors. I met these compatible companies who are doing what I'm doing in the space. And then I remember telling this one individual, she's a CEO of her company. They're doing a really great in their space. And I told her what I charged, and she just laughed at me. She said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to laugh at you.
Well, this brings it back to a conversation we had. Remember when I first started out, I had prices on my website. Do you call? Hey, like, can you get on a Zoom call? Can we talk about this for a second? Like, let's bring that walking on back, fall back. All right, because
I got to give you credit how you handled that with grace, because honestly, I watched you for 3 or 4 months, and it was like sitting here writing pages of notes. Like, I just want, because we didn't know each other that well, right? And I said, man, I just want to tell her, because what I wanted to tell you is exactly what someone has already told me.
Exactly.
So it wasn't about Todd thinks he's the best because he's out here. No, I'm trying to tell you that you
and I was like, thank you very much. I appreciate you, because we don't know what we don't know. We just want to help people. We want to impact people, but business is something totally different than when you're in the military service. The lights got to get paid. I mean, we talking about, people need to get paid. Things need to get paid.
Travel costs is out the wazoo. I travel a lot.
You do.
My biggest expense is travel and labor. So the one thing, so it's so funny now, come full circle, 4 years now, I teach down in Montgomery, Alabama, every new class, because I did something here for some senior leaders, and it's a business acumen class. The best thing
Mm.
I ever did is go and really do my due diligence. Even though I have an MBA, I had no
Yeah.
idea about business, right?
Right.
So I went and spent a year not only educating myself formally, I spent a year interning with a couple of unofficially interning.
Mm-hmm.
Like sitting, I used to go down this one company in DC who I know the folks down there. I just sit in there and they were very gracious to let me sit in there, ask questions,
Yep.
mentorship. And
Yep.
in year two was a lot better.
Right. Well, we know that it's a lot better because we see you out here in these streets. I was like, you in Ramstein today, you in Maelstrom tomorrow, you at Minot. I was just like, is he at home? And but you're putting out quality work.
Mhm,
So the things that you're talking about is empathy, right? So
mhm,
there's resiliency. Like how did those concepts, because I see those a lot on a lot of
mhm.
your social medias and the curriculum that you're given to, specifically to military. Like, how did that come to be?
Oh man, that's a great question. So for me, we got a pretty large portfolio. Like a lot of what we do is all over the place, right? So we got about 55 things in our catalog and about 4 certifications. But so behind the scenes, and this, like year one, man, if it wasn't for my wife and my niece, those were my employees. And my niece gave me a bunch of grace. Man, my niece was an unpaid employee.
Right.
And my wife would tell you all the time, she's like, I got a real job, right? So until I got to the point where I could really get after the things I wanted to, I had to start. And I tell people the first 2 years, these things that people tell you about building a business 3 to 5 years is true. Every penny I made for the first 24 months, or
Mhm.
actually 2.5 years, went back directly back in.
Directly back.
So that's how I could hire a curriculum writer or researcher. So to answer your question, I knew I wanted to come out with a series of certification kind of programs, not competitively like Maxwell, Brene Brown. They're great, but I wanted to make something that's just as good or
Right.
better. So the
Right.
first thing I did is we spent some time on researching. So the word empathy is an umbrella for a whole lot of things. Some
Mhm.
psychological safety, communication, team building. So we did a lot of research, and I want to shout out one of my friends. I've known him for 20 something years. Got out of the Air Force a while ago, and now he's a university chair for a university, creating PhDs. He's a PhD himself, and we started bouncing around these ideas, and he was soliciting, kind of pulling the stuff out of me. I'm like, empathy saved my life. I'm a
Yeah.
big, for me, ever since I was a young airman, if it wasn't for 2 people seeing me, I would have committed suicide. Right.
Right.
So seeing
Right.
people where they're at, is
Yeah.
something that's I always been hyper focused on as a leader of the military. So he started doing some impromptu research on empathy, to make a long story short. And he said, hey, I think we should, do basically a study on this where he can use his university. So we did a whole study on empathy that kind of proved that empathetic leadership creates organizational citizenship. So
Yes.
the more consistent, the empathy or the principles of empathy across an organization, the higher level of organizational citizenship that your organization will have, which creates all kinds of things, right?
Yes.
So from there, once we did that, I created the 10 module course that we have, which is a level 1, level 2, level 3 empathetic course. A level 3 is 50 hours. I wrote a book on empathy, which is our 270-page book on 30 days of
Yes.
empathetic
And
leadership.
let's see, tell you, Todd is writing books, y'all, because this is yet another one that he's written. So y'all, if you want to get these books,
Yeah. So
put your
so
hands
so
on them.
so that's the first thing I wanted to come out with, is that. So we did. It's been great response so far. We have trained over probably 300 people on
Mm-hmm.
on these on these different level 1, 2, and 3. And I've been able to, I see Mary on there and a few others, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
able to, kind of share that passion with other people who are passionate about that. So it's our first one of many that we're putting out. We just released something that's completely in line but opposite. We created Warriors Walk, and we just did our first iteration of Warriors Walk, which is is an immersive experience of resiliency, essentially, where it's like the Spartan race, Tough Mudder race, but it's not physical, it's mental.
Mm-hmm.
So we just did that out at Maelstrom in Montana, and that was awesome. So for me, how do I come up with this stuff? I have a notepad of stuff that, like I said, my background, because a lot of my background is curriculum writing and teaching. I'm really passionate, which leads to my second question that I ask people who want to get into the space: what are you passionate about? Because you should not do something that doesn't wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning and make you run out of bed.
That's right. I mean, I love the way that you put that, because there's some people who don't even like their businesses. I have met some folks and they are miserable. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's my new phrase, right? I get to get up and do these things because this is what for me, and I know for you, we live in our purpose. We're living in our purpose. And when you're doing that, everything around you seems like it is just falling together. Like everything is meshes together. So it don't really feel like work, like work like we used to do. It is work now, but it's a different type of work.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're talking about that passion thing. And some people just don't, I don't understand. Some people are just not in. Like, well, why don't you switch it up then?
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I say, hey, look, I spend a lot of time on social media because our biggest ROI comes from social media. I mean, it's just what we have invested in.
Yeah.
But I said something I chose to do, and I just noticed yesterday how long I've been doing it. 14 months. 14 months. I'm gonna give away a secret right now.
Oh, there we go.
It's not even a secret, but everybody, you can automate your posts. Now, what you see on LinkedIn for the last 4 or 5 months is mostly automated sometimes. But what you see on Facebook and IG every morning at 5, sometimes at 6 o'clock, sometimes at 6:01. For 14 months, I disciplined myself to get up myself and hit send on that.
Yep.
Because I want it to be, now I can easily automate that post.
Yeah.
I want it to be disciplined. Then when you see something not posted on time, or it's 2 days late, or 2 days it's kind of empty, that means you can, I'm overseas, or
you're doing something. Yeah.
But I disciplined myself to get up every morning. Now we're about to start automating it because that's been 14 months. But but I disciplined myself because which is that third question. What are you committed to do?
Hello. It is that question that I just asked somebody else the other day. So, okay, first of all, part of an entrepreneurial mindset is discipline. You have to do something and be consistent, like over and over and over and over again, because you're in a big old sea of other people who are doing and saying the same thing that you are. What's the difference? You keep showing up. And that's what I tell myself. I'm like, show up, show up, show up. You never know what the opportunity is if you don't show up. And these folks are just saying, well, I don't get anything. I don't have a client. I don't have this work. I don't have, like, how are you getting all this stuff? I show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that consistency is the key.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. So, for me, and I'm glad you're doing this and stick with it. I see people do one or two podcasts. They're like, well, no one watched my podcast. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. And believe it, someone's always watching.
Somebody's always watching, because tell you what, okay, so today at church, the pastor was talking about there's haters. They're waiting for you to stop. Okay. There are people who are actually watching you to see when you will stop. And so there's always someone looking, or there's someone who wants to emulate and it's inspired by you. So just because you have 0 on your podcast and you don't see them, doesn't mean no one's looking. People go back and look all this.
No, they looking live. They just not clicking on it where you can see their numbers. And trust me. So one thing I'm very deliberate about, and I would challenge anybody to find it. I'll give you all the free training you want. I never post anything petty on my social media.
Right.
I don't. It's about energy management. I know Mary's on, and we talked a lot about this all the time. We live close to each other. For me, your time every day is the most important commodity that you have. Your
Yes.
time, what you're going to spend your time. And if once you start understanding how business works and how client acquisition works and the time you got to spend on IMing and DMing the right people or logging on to the right networking group or going to meet with the right person at lunch, once you start figuring out that is actual business,
Yeah.
spending time on who is not supporting you,
You ain't got to, there's no time to even do that.
it naturally melts away.
I just tell people, hey, you know what? I'm in some group chats. I don't chat it up. Okay. I every now and again I'll look, I'll check in. Hey, how you doing? But other than that, just already know that I'm working. Okay. That I'm working my business. And I wear, we wear how many hats? When
Mhm.
the first year, CEO hat, marketing hat,
Yeah.
client hat. You have all these hats on, and then you're like, okay, it's 9 o'clock at night, and you
Or
still got more work to do.
2 o'clock in the morning, which is something I don't do anymore. My first year,
I'm glad you don't.
you talking about my first year, and I don't know, that was, I had to check myself, but I go to bed right, and I'm just gonna be really honest. I go to bed at 9:30 every night
Yeah,
for the
I
last,
do too.
and I get up at 5 in the morning.
Yeah,
But I go to bed at 9. But that first year, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning because it was just so unknown. Again, I came from a successful world where everything was so in place. I never had to ask any questions about anything because it was always someone ready to say, "Oh, Chief, I got that answer for you."
yeah, on
But
the ready.
on the ready, committees of people who want to answer.
Committees. Call folks up. Hey, I need about 10 people up in here,
Yes, but
and
so
it's done.
my personality got the best of me of wanting to figure it out and not,
Yeah,
I couldn't sleep till I figured some things out.
yeah.
And trial and error became it. So, but yeah, you as if anybody who's like, I would give, it took me a year and a half to learn what a strategy was because I want to mentor. So once I sat down, nothing happens in my business today that's not a part of the plan that we have. The only
Mm,
thing that we watch is how soon we're going to complete some of these things, or if we are off and it's not going to get completed. But the strategies developed last November.
mm-hmm.
All we're doing is just, yeah, there'll be some tweaks in it based on some things, but we're following a game plan.
Yeah,
So once I do that, and everything becomes almost autopilot. You still got to work at it, but everything becomes this less stressful ordeal that you got to go through.
yeah. So I just really love the way that you transitioned in the business aspect, from the year and really learning and growing. So like tell the audience like maybe a few things that they should really consider outside of the passion and in the strategy. Are there any other tips of advice that you would give
Yeah,
to someone?
100 of them. I need to put them
Okay,
all
let's
in a book.
start with a few of
I
them.
need to put them all in a book somewhere. But I would say the first thing is don't speed. There, coming out of, if we're talking about, military population, you're coming out of, we talked about the success, don't speed. Like I said, I established my LLC a year before I ever got it, but speeding to be this thing that you're used to being, and I want to say
Mhm.
that delicately, right?
Yeah.
To be back in the spotlight, speed into that is a disaster because
Mhm.
you're going to miss a lot of things. I would tell you the first thing to do is probably, if I could do it all over again, I would either hire or I would put myself in a circle of business coaching.
Yeah.
Either hire a business coach or I would get in and there's plenty of, free groups up here where you're at, wherever you're at. There's plenty of virtual groups that you can get in and listen and ask questions. That's the
Yeah.
first thing I would say. Find out what you want your business to be. And I'm going to say this third thing very, very not delicately.
Okay, this is a slated success talk show. So nothing here is a little delicate.
Get over yourself. Collaboration, if in building a table, you have to know what those two things mean. Like collaboration truly means that everybody comes to the table and what they leave with, and if it's a bigger piece of chicken than you got, then you need to get over yourself. It's not about rolling equally. It's about everybody rolling together.
That's right.
Not everybody's going to. I tell people when I first started an alliance piece that I added to my business and I brought all these people in, mostly veterans into my business. The first thing I said is, my goal is that I will give you access to everything I have, and we'll talk about that too. And
Mm-hmm.
this is how a true collaborative group works. Because I learned this watching the actual millionaires. Once I, that were giving me access and mentoring me. When they come to the table, it's about what can we do together to grow.
That's right.
That doesn't mean that they all are friends and they're all playing at the park on Saturday together.
Mm-hmm.
They're truly in a mindset that I don't have all the skills, but Rochelle has some things that will benefit me. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not using each other. It's like, let's actually work together. Let's
Absolutely.
actually work together. And
Yeah.
guess what? At the end of the day, I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs on Reels talk about. For me, people don't. My business is very complicated at this point. Courageous Leadership Alliance is entangled, not using that word, with a lot of things, but
Yeah.
but in a good way. Like, there are things that I'm a 15% partner in, but that's okay. I don't
Yeah.
need to be 100% in everything. I'm willing to come and give my all to make sure the whole team wins, because if the whole team wins, I don't care who has 60%,
Right.
70%.
Right.
I'm getting 15%, and I'm going to bring the entire CLA for 15% effort.
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're coming, but we're going to give 100% effort for all of us to get the win.
Right.
So true collaborative mindset is not, and I'm just going to be very honest, it's not who's number one, who's the annual, all of those and I'm giving grace for our military members because we all live this life.
For years, decades.
You have to, that's why I say don't speed, because trust me, the best of us
Mm-hmm.
carry that into this life. The
Yeah.
best of us.
We sure do.
The best of us will find moments, I'm being totally transparent, where we look at someone else's perceived success and
Mm-hmm.
we turn it into, what are we not doing?
Exactly.
Because that's what we have always, somebody has to win and all somebody has to lose has been the mentality.
Yeah.
That and winning and losing wasn't a negative thing. It was basically, if I want to make this rank, I have to win, because there's only one way to get promoted is to win.
Mm-hmm.
And then
It's
but
the mindset.
yeah, it's like everybody can win.
Everybody. There's enough for everyone to eat at these tables. I'll tell you what.
No, I tell people like this is like 100 to 300 leadership development, HR portfolio, all of these different things, name it what you want, coaching, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a couple of $100 billion industry.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I will never make nowhere near $1 billion.
Right.
So let's just say that if this is a couple of $100 billion available, why would I stop you? That means I don't believe in my ability to take just a couple of crumbs off the table is what I'm taking. If I got to do anything to stop you, or anything to not give you information, or if I have to do anything to shutter your shine,
Mm-hmm.
then that's really a reflection that I'm not good enough.
Right.
That's the way I feel. So for me, and not only that, business 101.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
No one wins alone.
No.
The biggest company, and this is why I say the 35-year-old, he was going for a $10 million contract. And this is what blew my mind. I'm glad I saw it so early in my career as an entrepreneur. He was saying, this is the contract I'm going under. And he wrote his company in the circle. And then he started drawing lines around this circle of all of the subcontractors that he will need to win this contract, which ended up being 13.
Wow.
And he said, at the end of the day, all I need to do is win this. Yes, we're going to go in with 13 other people. And at the end of the day, I'm only going to make about this much money. But this isn't the short game. The long game is I'm winning this contract to get bigger contracts.
That's right.
He said the biggest mistake you can do going in business is the need to win everything. He said, people who have that mentality never win. So I'm in government contracting, which is a leg of our business. And I have 4 partners that are not the same partners. I'm partnering with 4 completely different entities because if they call me and said, hey, I believe that you have something that you can come in on this. Yeah, we talk about numbers, but I never go in going, well, I need to be the majority owner of it. I go in for a fair evaluation of what my skills are.
Yeah.
And if that's 5%, then I'm going to bring that best 5% to the team.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It's I just the concepts, right, that you have to have for the business is just, for me, I'm like, yes, like I'm writing the things down, but the collaboration piece, right? But it has to be with the right people. So so like,
and you're going to learn a bunch of lessons on that. So
yeah.
The best thing I can tell people is my philosophy, and I've tightened it up a little bit lately because I used to be a completely open architecture, right? And the best thing, I've hired some people here recently. Like one of the people who's my business operations manager, she has 0 military background. She knows nothing about it, which is fantastic for me.
Right.
Because she comes from a different perspective. For me, getting out of the military honestly meant if you were in the 3 rings, and I got this 3 rings of circle of things, I still would, if you came to me and said, this is who you are, I'm like my grandfather. I never met him, but how to say, he used to be like a spit in the hand and handshake guy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you tell me this is who you are, that's how I did business at the beginning. If this is who you say you are,
right,
I'm gonna believe you.
Yeah.
Until you tell me, show me you're not. Which really, really was bad business practices. So what I would tell people from a business standpoint, learn the business quickly and learn all of the paperwork quickly. There's nothing wrong in the beginning. If someone gets offended because you have them sign an NDA, they're not the right business partner for you.
Right.
If someone gets offended that you're going to make them sign something to say what y'all agreement is to carry out these services, they're not your right business partner. If someone gets offended because they say that you didn't pay, you're not paying enough, then they're not the right business partner for you. So you just have to understand these things quickly and protect everything that you have to the hilt. Because
intellectual property.
I did not know that, in the military, we got this word for people that don't know in the military, that's your listeners and viewers. They got this word called benchmarking.
Best practice.
We're going to benchmark that. In the entrepreneur world, that's theft.
Yeah.
You can't take somebody's intellectual property and erase their name and put your name on it.
That ain't happening.
That's called theft.
Yeah, somebody gonna find out.
But I have to explain that sometime. I'm going, well, in the military, I used to work training in the military in security forces. And yeah, we used to take all kind of stuff. And, it was no big deal. Take the last slideshow,
Yep.
In the civilian world, that's theft. And why I say that jokingly, but honestly, but it's not until, I'm a curriculum developer by training, right? I haven't done it in a long time before I retired from the military. I didn't have to, but now that I'm using it, the hours. Like I tell people, everywhere I go, people go, can I have your slides? And I have to explain to them, those 30 slides I just showed you, that's about $5,000 worth of work. Like literally a graphic designer made those slides. Sarah, my researcher, researched all of the data you saw in those slides. And I added my personal touch of hours into all of this stuff. So combined, those 30 slides I just showed you was about $5,000 for us to develop those slides.
Right.
They're not just slides. There's a bunch of research and other data behind those slides. So if I gave you those slides, I'm giving away my intellectual property. And sometimes that's received and sometimes it's not.
Well, I know.
And it's
Oh, I
like,
know.
and so a same thing, pricing, right? So,
Mhm.
one thing my mentor told me is, your pricing model is intellectual property.
Yeah.
And I said, because I used to always tell people my pricing model, but again, goes back to my prices aren't your prices.
Right. Right.
And
Everybody's prices points are different based on what they have and the skills that they have with that, and
so
there's a lot to take into account.
yeah, so it's disingenuous for me to go when someone asks me for pricing advice, and I ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I go, well, this, because one thing, we had an offsite last year. I have studied, and that's the thing. Do you know what your industry is doing? I
Hmm.
know what the 10 government contracted leadership development companies that is contracted at more than a 40% rate with the government. I know what all of them charge the government. I
Mm.
know what every one of them charge the government. I know what every one of them pays their subcontractors. I know what every one of them. I've researched every one, and I showed it at my offsite last year. I said, "Hey, this is what every one of the competitors in this space
Yeah.
pays their people."
Yeah.
Because this is where I'm going to be honest too. If you're dealing with a lot of friends or acquaintances or admirers or strangers or whatever rung people fall into, and you're bringing people in, even with skill sets that you want to collaborate with or sub or thing, this is where I went back to. Someone believes that you don't pay them enough. You need to have that conversation with them, because either one or two things is occurring. Maybe you're not paying them enough,
Hmm.
or they don't understand what the pay is in the industry.
Right.
That this it's just one or two things that is happening.
Hmm.
Now, if they don't understand what the pay is in the industry, then for me personally, I take it a little bit of a side eye, because I go, if anyone was at my offsite, and when I said I didn't make any money in year one, the philosophy that I applied in year one, I still apply to this day.
Hmm.
When I made no money in year one, I made a conscious choice to pay people who work with me what the 10 and $40 million companies were paying their contractors,
Mm.
sometimes more. And
Yeah.
people ask me, why did I do that? And why do I still continue to do that when I'm the smallest of all of them?
Right.
I said, because I see myself as them. And I
Right.
want to build,
Build to that.
I want to build people who know that I am invested in them today.
Hmm.
I want to build people who know that I'm willing to give up more of me, more of my end to them, to show that we can do this together. Now, I'm
Yeah.
going to pay you more. If you go over to these two companies, which you're free to do,
Hmm.
they're going to pay you less than I do.
Right.
And their revenue is 20 times mine.
Wow.
So if we think about that from a investment standpoint,
Hmm.
but what I tell people is, even though I choose to do that, is not always been favorable.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
the
I
truth.
know.
It's just
But
the
you know
truth.
what? It's your business,
Yeah.
right? And for what you are doing in your business, I think that's something for me. I'm looking at that going, that's admirable to me, because that you're sticking to what you want to do and not being, forced to do something because somebody other business is doing it,
Yeah.
right? It's something that you're comfortable with doing, something that you're like a core value for you. Like, this is what I want my company to represent.
Mhm.
This is how I want to go about doing it.
And I'll tell you why. And and I know we're into this conversation. I'm gonna be honest with you why I really dove into entrepreneurship after year one, and really, once I started learning all the things I just told you, that I'm proud to be retired from the military and I'm proud to be enlisted, right?
Hmm.
But there's still a stigma, and let's just be honest. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be totally
Oh
honest.
yeah. Well, let's talk about that too.
There's still a stigma. I have I'm an anomaly in the rooms that I try to get into.
Hmm.
It's okay to have a hobby, but once you try to have a business, situations change.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be, like when someone says, "Oh, you're a motivational speaker," and I'm like, "Well, not really. I mean, I go speak, but my business is so many more layers than me speaking."
Right.
we have pretty substantial ties in some ventures, right? But that's
Mhm.
just because you don't see it on Facebook doesn't mean we're not doing it, right?
Right.
So, but I said, being enlisted and trying to walk into some of these rooms where they do know, because this is a government
Right.
thing. There is still a stigma. There have been companies who are led by not enlisted people, former enlisted people, who have told me that, oh, we'd rather you work for us than be partnered with us.
Hmm.
I said, that's interesting. I said, that's very interesting. Oh, we're not interested in partnering with you. We're interested in you doing all the work for
Mm.
essentially a fee of a subcontractor. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to build your program and execute your program and you're just going to get the bulk of the money from the government, then that's a partnership.
Right.
And I have a whole business that partners with companies. So if we're not partnering, you're not going to treat me like I'm just here to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was more shocked when I ran into that for the first time. But by running into that for the fourth time, I'm like, well, this isn't an anomaly. Well,
Right.
for me, what I would say is know your value, know your worth. And why
Yes.
I research all these companies is because if you don't know what everybody is compensating people, then they're going to try to not compensate you,
Yeah.
especially in the space where you're still dealing with, I'm just going to be honest with you, the government, because all of us have had this conversation, not all, but all of us can either had this conversation, know someone who's had the conversation of, oh, I know you're retired so-and-so, and I know you get disability. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the red flag not to pay me what I'm worth.
Exactly. That's
So,
not.
and I've had that happen to me more than a half a dozen times. Oh, chief, you're good. I know you're a retired chief. You probably got some disability. So you can just do it because for the love of it. And I'm like, well, if I'm doing it for the love of it, and I know that you have a 7-figure contract, then who's doing it for the love of it and who's doing it for the money?
Yeah.
So if you have a 7-figure contract and you want me to take 30% below industry rate, then someone here is not fair.
Right.
So that's what I would tell everybody out here as entrepreneur. Don't walk into anything until you do your education. Don't walk into any agreement with me until you do your education. You know,
Exactly.
don't
Yeah, because you get caught up.
you
These
get
and
yeah.
it's going to be a bad situation. It's the support system is a real thing when you're in entrepreneurship. You should have folks to look at your contracts, and folks to talk to you about business management. You should really have a community of people that you have. I have an accountability partner every single day. We check in,
Yeah.
and it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What venture are you looking at? Okay, can we go in it together? So these are the things that you always have to be thinking about if you want to grow in your business.
Yeah.
And
And truly, you have to know the right circle that you're running
oh
in,
yeah, oh
because
yeah,
I'm just going, I tell people sometime, I'm like, it's funny, when someone said, oh, I say, well, my name gets mentioned, it's either, man, that guy's great, or he's a pariah, one of the two, right? And I said, I'm okay with that because I know where my heart is at, and
yeah.
I know who my mom raised, right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
it's no sleep lost, right? So, but if you are honest with people and you're consistently honest with people and you're consistent in what you're telling them, even if they don't want to hear,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what names of people are saying, because
they're gonna
you
talk
know,
about you anyway.
I mean, that's why I said you will never, ever, ever see me talk about anything negative on social media or in person, because if I have that much time, then I'm really wasting time where I can be doing something else, right?
That's right.
And but no, I love the fact, because I think there's been an evolution of enlisted people retiring from the military, and I think if you look at 20 years ago, the people who came before us, those great men and women, they didn't have the opportunities we had.
No.
They were subject to some very tight niches that they had to go into,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I look at us and I'm proud, even if I don't know that person, even if
I,
that person don't like me, it
yeah.
doesn't matter. I'm still proud of you for
Yeah.
taking a chance,
Yeah.
because if we continue to do this, the one thing that as I travel around, or I get an IM, and it's starting to get younger too. It used to be just our retired peers, former chiefs or chiefs to be like, oh, I want to link up with you to see what you do. Oh, that's fine. But now they're like staffs and techs.
Yeah.
They're like young people that's inspired going, you know what, one day, like, hey, can you tell me what I have? I'm retiring from the military in 15 years. Can you
Yeah.
tell me what I got to do right now to start getting my reps up? And I'm
Yeah.
sitting here like, it's not necessarily to be an entrepreneur, but they're like, people showing me their nonprofits that nobody know they had. And they're like master sergeants. They're like, I got this nonprofit that works with kids. Can you give me some advice of how I scale this or how I work on the so those type of things is really what I say drives me more than any revenue, any
Yeah.
program I launch, is that we can still be in this life. It's not about still being a chief or anything. In this life, we can show people that you can have the greatest of careers in that uniform,
Yep.
regardless of where you stopped at. If you stopped
Yep.
at 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, 35, it doesn't matter. But when you take that uniform off, you can take those skills.
Yep.
If you really check yourself and look yourself in the mirror,
Yep.
you can really take those skills and you can really do some great things out here, because you have a leg up and a head up from probably 80-90% of your peers that's never served at that point.
Yeah.
You have skill sets.
Yeah.
So I think us as former enlisted, like I'm a cheerleader for all of y'all. I be on there all day, be like, man, look at it. Because
Yeah.
I remember where the Slave brand first post. I was like, boy, I need to call Rochelle.
I was like, you know what? Because you're not gonna give me in no space like that. I'm not going back to the government
But
space.
I'm
I
telling
said I
you,
wanted to do something different
yeah,
and in my unique way, and I wanted to service in
yeah,
a certain way. And
yeah.
this is truly getting back to who I am at my core.
It
And
is.
so it's like when you do that and you put yourself out there, it's really about, okay, what is it that is going to get you into this mindset of, first of all, it's going to take a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, are you going to love this thing as long as it's going to take and it gives me something to really go back to think. And I love it when you said, am I really that good? Y'all didn't pump me up for all these years. Am I really that good? Let me see if I'm that good. All right. And it's so good to know that there are so many of us out here that are like, hey, we're starting our consulting business. We want to do leadership. We want to do speaking. And people are coming to me, can you teach me how to speak? Okay, I could teach you how to speak, if you want to go out and do these things. But we are the people that are paving the way.
Mm.
I kind of see who's in the LinkedIn space, how it is. And we're leading the way for other people to make a decision, like you said, years early, and say, this is something that I want to do. Now you got a question here, Todd.
Mm.
So we've got one member who is transitioning, and Kevin Myers says, how do I leverage these types of certifications in the civilian sector? So he's got certifications, and he wants to know how he can leverage those when he's out in the civilian sector.
Well, I'm not sure what, if he can expound on what kind of certifications he have. If he's talking about certifications he has like PMP and different things like that, he's trying to, transition into actual employment, or he's talking about he went and got some leadership development and some coaching and some assessment certifications he's trying to develop into his own business. Those are two completely different questions. But if he's trying to leverage it, I'll just take the entrepreneur route.
Okay.
If he's trying to leverage these certification, there's no new leadership. There's just new people. And I say that because there's nothing new under the sun, right? All of us are really playing in the same, or swimming in the same swimming pool. Where we differ is our brand credibility. Like I always tell people, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, and Burger King are all fast food, but only one of them got a packed drive-through at lunchtime.
Right.
That's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can go to 2 out of 3 and you're going to get through pretty fast, right? So I tell people, build your brand into the 3 things that you do well first, not the 17 things that you think you do well. Because anyone who comes work with me, they know I frustrate them. I'm like, tell me the 3 things that you do well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right.
We can cross that bridge down the road. But I need to know the 3 things. And if it's because what I want to do is I want you to tell me 3 that you can hone in on, and then we're gonna get to 1, and that's all we're gonna work on.
Right.
Because
exactly.
I want to get, so what do you do well? What is your passion? And what do you want to leverage? Because a lot of people go, oh, I went to get this particular certification from this particular leadership company. And I'm like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really what you are passionate about teaching? Is it really what you want to do a lot of? Because teaching is research. I come from an academic background. Like, I don't say anything. I tell people for every 1 hour I speak somewhere, it's about 7 hours of research. Because I know everything about what I'm about to say. I know when I go to the Pentagon and speak to the Pentagon about business acronym or down to CLC, I can tell you the recruiting numbers that day. I can tell you the numbers of how many people changed jobs in the last 4 generations that day. I can tell you all of these different things that tie into just a slide.
Yeah.
Because you have to know that to build what is ultimately, Kevin, credibility. Because anybody can recite slides.
Yeah.
Not everyone can inspire thought. It's a difference than reciting slides and invoking thought. And your job is to invoke thought. So people walk away going, man, I was in Kevin's briefing, man, and that gave me a little bit to think about. Or I went back to my organization and I took a look at this.
Yeah.
Brief. It's a fine, delicate balance between motivating, educating, and facilitating. So you have to know where you fall in those. Some people are motivational speakers and they are phenomenal motivational speakers.
Yeah.
I tell people I'm a big fan of Eric Thomas. I think Eric Thomas is a great motivational speaker, but you're probably not going to see Eric Thomas teaching a 4-hour, 5-hour.
No, I haven't seen him that one time offer any of that.
Empathy class. He probably, my empathetic leadership class at level 3 is 3 days, 8-hour days. I just taught one in California by myself, which means I taught for 20 plus hours by myself. So I tell people that's the difference. Are you a motivational speaker? Are you a facilitator? Or are you an educator? Because they are completely different things. And if you can master 2 out of 3 or 3 of the 3, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to know which one that you are and which you can master. Because they're complete. So some people, like if someone say, hey, I want to teach for you in CLA. And I go, okay, can you teach for 3 days for 24 hours?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, no, I can give an hour to 2-hour briefs. Now I know that's not your thing.
That's not your thing.
What you are now is a great, probably motivational speaker and probably a speaker who can probably be a topic speaker.
Yeah.
A topic speaker, you can go in there for 2 hours. You can speak on a topic and you can probably kill it.
Yep.
But once you start going past the 4-hour mark, you're in the facilitation and education. And
some folks like me, that's me. I'm like, give me a topic.
Yeah,
I got you for 2 hours.
But that's the thing. We're all great. And that's why I said, when you get to the table, don't look at what side dishes everybody's walking away with.
Right.
You'd be like, well, I wanted the macaroni and cheese. Well, you know what? You don't supposed to be eating macaroni and cheese.
Because that thing will put some weight on you.
Yeah, like this ain't you're supposed to be eating coleslaw. But that's the realization. You can't look across the table and be upset with what's on someone else's plate because it's not your plate.
Yeah.
And that's what causes discontent. That's what causes bad business relationships. Don't worry about. And that's why you've heard me mention 4 times, which is something I rarely ever mention, is because I wanted to mention on your program because people, it's not that I'm better, because there are a lot of things that people are listening and know who work with me know that I won't touch. They know that Todd Simmons is never going to teach that. It's doesn't, and I'm certified in those things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not my passion. I'm just going to
Right.
be, there's certain things that I'm always 100% of the time going to pick up the phone for someone else to teach.
Mm.
I just don't bring it with those things. It just don't,
Yeah.
I don't wake up in the bed running to it. So that's what I tell people, get out of your own way. It's like, what are you good at and what are you passionate at? I stay in my lane.
Stay
And,
in the lane.
and what's outside of my lane? I go rent somebody's car.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
Somebody else that does it. Yeah.
somebody else does it. I know I
Yeah.
can deliver it. I can deliver it, but I'm gonna be like, it's gonna be not that great.
Yeah.
So I've had people call us all the time. And somebody just called us for something in Chicago. And what they asked for, I was like, well, I know who that sounds like. Not me, but I know who I can call.
Mm-hmm.
And we all win.
Yeah.
And we all can win off of that situation. But I know people who would hang the phone up and say, well, I'm not available.
Mm.
And I would
Mm.
go, there's not one time that Courageous Leadership Alliance hangs up the phone that we are not available.
Mm.
Right now.
Well, when you say you're not available, is it because I've said no to some folks because we weren't agreeing on the price points.
Oh, that's different.
That's different.
No, that's different.
Yeah.
When we know the price point ain't everything, they want to pay us what we want to charge.
Okay. Yeah.
What I never is if I at this point do not have someone who I can pick up the phone, that's hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, if I don't have someone I can say, you know what, that's going to, even at sometimes when it's zero benefit to me,
right?
Because it's not 100% of the time benefit to me. Sometimes it's literally giving that opportunity away. Because guess what? If I can't do it and I can't, why should I be upset if Rochelle's going to make the money off of it?
Yeah.
Why? Because we're all in the same grouping, right? If we're all in the same grouping, then what does it matter?
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned my year one in business is I watch these people. I watch these people at dinner tables. I watch these groups. I'm in a couple of mentoring groups here in DC. And I met in my last group meeting. I'm having lunch with one guy next week. I did a real quick story. I was the only one that did not know everybody else.
Right.
And I was super intimidated. And these was all IT professionals. I'm not IT. Right. I did not know that this was all IT. So, but I'm the only one that don't. You would have thought, and I'm just gonna be honest, like in my mind, because that's probably the kind of things that I always experience, just to be honest with you, a lot of times in the military, that they were going to be passive aggressive, not really forthcoming. I was with those guys for 3 hours, and at the end, all they were trying to figure out is how to bring me into everything that they were doing.
Right.
And one of the guys, phenomenal resume. He came and he said, "Oh man, I love what you're doing. I do this, and he does IT, but he also does big level security. Like he's a former Secret Service agent, does all this stuff." And he said, "I actually like to speak sometime, but I would love to get my speaking, engagements. I don't have a brand in that world." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "That's what I do."
Yeah.
Now, okay, hey man.
Now you can get in.
Now that's what I do. Guess what? I hired him to do a speaking engagement a week ago.
Yeah.
First speaking engagement. You know what he said? "Hey man, I know you want to get into this sector. Come meet with us next week. We may have something for you."
Yeah.
I don't know these people. But again, what are we doing? We're figuring it out. How you got a skill, I got a skill.
Yep.
We don't have to have all this passive aggressive, who's going to win, who's number one, who's number two, who got 3 books out, who got 1 book out. It's a headache. It's a headache.
It is a headache.
So why?
I've learned that, starting out too. It's like, the opportunities that come, like you've given me a couple of opportunities, so far. We're going to be meeting here in the next week for another opportunity that's here that you reached out and said, "Hey," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't care what it is, right? I think some people get fixed in their mind. It's like, it has to be this, it has to be that, it has to be this. And for me, it's like, no, I get to showcase. I get to showcase, put your face out there. The people that may not even know you, they may have somebody else that they know that you can be a part of. And that's just really what this business entrepreneurial kind of space is, you
Mhm.
know? So like the networking thing is a huge piece
It is.
to the business.
It is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tell for everyone out there investing, like I can care less what I post on Facebook. I'm just gonna be honest
Yeah.
because Facebook is in the business social media. I'm just gonna tell you that right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that I see you on LinkedIn because it's where I spend all my time. And if you're really into the LinkedIn reports and algorithms and seeing over the last 6 or 7 months, we see our entire audience change, right?
Yep.
I've written over 25 articles. I've, just being consistent in what your brand of what you're talking about. And you can see who's starting to pay attention to you, which
Mm-hmm.
now has a return that becomes different. It's not even about someone coming out to hire you all the time. People
Yeah.
start seeing you now, and now the credible opportunities for those of you who want to get into government contracting, per se.
Mm-hmm.
Government contracting is 100% a teaming thing. Very few companies, unless they're already well established, is winning government contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So how you get into is building a credible enough brand where someone picks up the phone and say, "Hey, I want to have a meeting with you to just hear about what your company does and to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how you integrate into our future opportunities."
Yeah.
I have about one of those calls a week, but I would tell you probably out of 50 of those calls, you might only get invited to 5.
Right.
But 5 is
It's
pretty,
fine.
it's 5. But look at the if you look up the upside, 50 people know about you.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
fact that 45 may have not invited you to the table today,
To
I mean, we've gotten some calls for some SBAs. We build relationships with a lot of that community, some small business, administrative POCs and all these things. You got to do the work. And you have to have a strategy. And I know we're running a lot of time, but I want to tell people this: don't get
This is, hey, listen, I mean, the folks are still hanging out with us. So thank y'all for still hanging out because there's so much to this. And we just want to give
stop.
you as much as we can.
Stop. Look. And I sometimes struggle with this because I put a lot of stuff out on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, stop reading people's social media as the law.
Right.
If you get mesmerized by people's social media and go, "Oh, you see me here, you see me here, you see me here," I'm totally transparent. I mean, yeah, that's branding for one segment of our business because we want people to see that we're doing things. That's cool. But there's so much more behind the scenes that no business can ever put on social media. It's just not, right?
Mm-hmm. Got
So
somebody cutting grass out there listening to us. Look at that.
so so you should
Love
develop
it.
the best advice I can give you is develop trusted relationships where people are willing to have honest conversations with you. Like, hey, like you are chasing very short-term success. Let me plug you into how do you create sustainable business growth, because I talked about this a couple of days ago with some in a small entrepreneur group, mostly veterans. I was like, be careful not to work years growing a hobby.
Mm.
Don't turn around and 3 years later you look back and go, man, I got a very successful hobby. I
Mm.
said, because the minute you don't try to grow a business,
Uh, okay, hold on. Okay. Oh, let me see. So I'm trying to calm down here just a little bit because, you know, I think sometimes people they have good intentions. There's folks that really want to have a business, but when they don't have the structure
Mhm.
of a business and they dabble, in and out, and they think that it is, people don't really take you seriously. Like you show up and you're like, I don't know why no one's really asking me about it. It's because it's like you sometimey. You do it when you feel good. Look at the days that we've had. I know I've had some really low days, where I'm just like, dang it. Like I've been showing up, I ain't getting nothing out here, right? And then you could easily just say, I'm done.
Yeah.
A hobby, you could just say I'm done. A hobby, you could
Yeah.
just do it for a couple of months because you need something to pique your interest. But a business that you want to grow, it's gonna look different.
It gotta look different. And in the stage that I'm in right now, I gotta come up with people's money every 2 weeks. I got
Right.
I have employees now. Not my subcontractors. Like I have people who run the back of my business. So it's not a choice of mine. I traveled 20 days in the month of August, 20.
Mm.
And people go, man, you travel all the time. You got to be tired. I'm like, not particularly. Travel is tiring, but I have the worst social life traveling that you ever seen.
Yeah.
Because I tell people when you see me on and I'm doing something, when I'm off, I'm sitting in my hotel room preparing for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
It's not that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
It's not something like I'm just out here having this vita. I'm just, oh, you were in England. I said, yeah, I got off the plane, went and spoke, and got back on the plane. I didn't even know I was in London because I was asleep the whole way back.
Right.
So it's not as glamorous.
Yeah. Like Charles, hey, look, I like Charles's comment here, because I know he's here. I think he's here, right, in the DC area
No,
now.
no, he's still Flan should be down in he's moving to Tennessee, but I think he's
Oh, okay. But I see that he's working with
Mhm,
JR Flatter, right? So,
mhm,
um, this taking that leap of faith. This
mhm,
is this is really what we're talking to
yeah.
when we're living in our purpose and on our own terms. It's really about taking steps that no one really gets what I'm like. I have family who's just like, what are you doing? Now you know what I'm doing. Okay. Y'all know what I'm doing. I know you watching. You just want to ask me just to say, I
Mhm.
don't know what it is. But when it looks different than what other people are doing, they won't get it. They won't really understand
No,
why you have this vision, why you have this so laser focus on, doing what you do.
so that goes into a good point, right? So I wrote something about it a while ago, and I was talking to one of my friends about this. I said, and this is not, like Flan is one of my oldest friends, right?
Hmm.
And I have three in year 2.5. I started operating because so this is and every entrepreneur knows this. I know, and Rochelle, you'll probably laugh when you hear this. When you put your book out, you are expecting all your friends and family to buy it.
I was expecting it to be sold out day
You
one. I'm
you
like, I publish, push,
you you,
push, publish. It's like,
you
and
said
I got like 2 books sold. I was like,
so.
what?
Let me tell you the biggest entrepreneur mistake that you can make.
Hmm.
The biggest entrepreneur mistake you can make is the energy that you focus on that first ring of support. And so let me tell you my 3 rings. The first ring is friends and family.
Hmm.
The second ring is admirers. Those
Mm.
people who are just looking and they're seeing and they're like, man, I kind of like what Rochelle. And the third
Mhm.
ring is strangers. As an entrepreneur, everything you do at 5 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night should be to impress the strangers. And
That's a whole word.
And if you happen to have some friends and family support you,
Hmm.
then it's a cherry. But what we do is we reverse that and we spend all our energy trying to get the people closest to us to support us.
Well, listen to this. I'm gonna add this one too. Our family and our friends are not our clients.
They're
They're not
not.
our truest clients, right? And so I'm just like, when you get that out of your head, that they gonna pay you for your services, because they know you, like what I'm saying? They not gonna pay you to go and speak and doing this and that if
And
that's the space you in,
yeah,
right?
and your social media, you should be like, you know what? If all your friends and family are liking your stuff, which they're not, you should be like, okay, that's cool. I've
Yeah.
got a lot of friends, but who are these people way out here? Those
That,
people way out. Where are the companies? Where are the schools? Where are those strangers? Because if I'm not, I tell people, if you look at your business, just told a friend of this just the other day about this 3 rings. I said, I do all kind of data analytics on our stuff. I said, if I don't look at my LinkedIn and I don't have at least 5 to 10 strangers a month that is coming to us, then I'm just recycling friend likes.
Right.
Like I say, I love Flan to death. Flan likes all my stuff.
Yeah.
But Flan,
we all do. I mean, there's a whole social network that we just like this stuff, right?
But Flan ain't gonna hire me to be his coach. Let's just be real.
Nope.
So as much as I appreciate the like, and his like makes the algorithm go out to other people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But what we will do, I hear in these entrepreneurial circles, they be like, man, my friends don't even support me. My friends don't even do this. And I'm like, what they buying from you? What do you sell that they want?
Yeah.
So for me, I say that lightly because there is some legitimacy to that, right?
Yeah.
There are people who intentionally don't support you.
Yeah.
But again, don't give that energy to anyone.
Yep.
If you work for the customers, you work for the clients, you work for the business growth, that's all you should do. Like I said, I saw somebody one day literally going through their social media posts and going down the line to see how many of their friends like their posts.
What?
And I was over there looking at the restaurant. I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about right here. So they don't never support me. And I'm like, you know what? I was thinking back. I'm like, man, I never would even consider doing that.
Never.
Because, not that I don't care.
I don't have the time.
I don't have the time.
When I get something that's got a lot of posts, you'll see me say one little line, thank you, everyone, because I can't, I mean, it just takes a lot to get through that.
So we joke about it, but I would tell people, because it's a real thing. We want the support of people that we feel we should have the support of.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who doesn't support you. It just doesn't. It's your dream. It's your vision. It's your legacy to build.
Yeah.
And have fun doing it. I'm telling you, like, you know, I've done a lot by myself in 4 years, and we're nowhere near as a business. I'm not getting on here on your show like, oh, I'm a huge where I want to be. I'm not anywhere near. I'm doing well. I'm blessed. We're doing very well, but I'm not where I want to be. Where I want to be is this could be something that my kids run in 10 years.
Right.
You know, my accountant daughter to be the CEO of this business. I want to build a legacy that's scalable, but I don't pay attention to those people. People are here. I'm a grace person. People give me grace, I'm sure, in some of my crazy antics that I have in my head. And I give other people grace because there's trauma in life. There's a lot of trauma in people's upbringing. There's trauma in us as adults. There's trauma historically. There's trauma generationally. So not everybody is going to look at you and clap for you.
No.
And it's not always from a place that they want to destroy you. It's a place where they can't love themselves sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I give people grace on that. I don't ever get upset when I go, man, this person kind of ain't really for me. I'm like, man, I might check on that person and go, are you okay? Because I'm fine. So if I ain't hearing from you or and for a very long time or something, sometimes I might be like, well, you know, because I see some people just sitting there scrolling through people's social media all day, comparative shopping.
Yeah.
And I feel very, you know, because I've been there. I've been where I felt worthless. I've grown up feeling like that. Mm-hmm. I've had times in the military where I didn't feel worthy. I had times in life where I didn't feel, and to be here today, I feel pretty doggone good. But I had to do the work.
Yes.
I had to do the work. And it's not a brag thing. I'm like, I had to come back from I heard you say dark days earlier, man. I had to come back from some dark days, man. And it's not over, because some days I get up and I'm paralyzed to that bed.
Yeah.
Some days I get up and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like, I almost had a slight, total transparency, had a slight anxiety attack 2 weeks ago. If you saw my calendar for August, I was like, how?
It's a real thing.
I was like,
It's a
how am I
real
gonna,
thing.
yeah, I was like, how am I gonna go from Dallas to London to LA to Montana to Alabama in 14 days? And how am I going
It's a People don't get, I mean, well, some, I wouldn't say people don't get it, but they don't realize that when we do have these things that we want to do, all these things, that it comes with, some side effects. So
yeah.
I recently just started getting some anxiety from driving, and
Mhm.
I've never really had it before. And it was because I was driving to one event, driving to another event, coming back on the virtual platform, giving presentations, teaching and facilitating, for my other, part-time business or my part-time job. And I was just like, it was a lot that was just, it needed to be sorted out. And I really didn't manage
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, lesson learned. You need to manage your time. If 2 and 3 weeks prior, if you can work on something and not be feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm pressed for time, that's what you're going to have to do. And you have to build it on your schedule. Scheduling and and like I have a planner is a thing. Like I have to have that and look at it 2 and 3 times a day just to make sure that I ain't got nothing coming up, right? So like I think that's part of the journey. I'm everybody, okay? So if you everybody, like some folks are everybody right now in your business, you really have to make sure that you are managing everything and being very intentional so that when these anxieties, these worries start pinning up, you can go, okay, there's something that I need to do differently. There's something that I need to change.
No, I agree with that. I have blackout dates in every month, but
Yeah.
August has been one of those 2 months I've had like that this year. And I'm not going to say it's the right or wrong thing to do for those, but sometimes it's just sometimes some things are just things you can't turn down.
Yeah.
And then you have to put yourself and go, okay, how do I recover? So I tell people to say I work a lot. I do, but I also am deliberate about my downtime.
Yeah.
I take multiple vacations a year because it's needed. You have
Yeah.
to be deliberate about how you do your downtime. And during this time of the year after September, I typically take most of my time off
Yeah.
during the winter. But yeah, you got to just be careful with that. But it's a thousand things we can talk about on this platform.
Yeah. So
I love the fact that what you're doing and so many other people. But I came on here today early. I was out trying to brave the outlet mall today on a holiday weekend, which was not the smartest
yeah,
thing.
I don't even know why you did that, but
That was
go
that was
ahead.
yeah. I came home and took a nap after that.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about what I want to talk about on here because I mean, it's so much. I don't really talk about this with a lot of people anymore, like because we're all busy. I know we've been on a couple of Zooms with each other, but
Yep.
I would tell people this, just from being retired as long 4 years now, I want people to know that there's, I guess that collaboration piece and that opening yourself up to trust and then opening yourself up to not be comparative and to get out and live the second chapter of your life can be so good. And I don't know how to shake people into that, right? I mean, I got friends and I got some, people who are doing well at it, and I got people who are not doing so well at it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to give yourself grace. You got to be willing to be honest with yourself and say we all are those people and we're willing to change.
Yeah.
We all have been some of those characteristics, and you got to be willing to talk about them. But I can't say enough about that. If you're out here alone and you're out here growing a hobby alone, it's not going to be it's not going to be enjoyable.
No.
And that's what I would tell you. So if we say who we if for this for everybody in the military was in the military or was in the military, if we ever said this is who we were, like people who were for each other,
Mm-hmm.
and that shouldn't change when you take off the uniform.
Yeah.
Because I've deployed with plenty of people I didn't like. and I
Yeah.
probably would have jumped in the front of them, bullet or an IED. When I'm just saying, well, I've lived that life for
Yeah.
a long time, and
Yeah.
I probably would have took one for people I didn't like.
Right. Same here.
So I will tell you, in entrepreneurship, if you're willing to take a bullet for somebody you didn't like when you had the uniform on, and now you're not willing to work with somebody because you're envious or jealous of them, you got
Yeah.
your priorities mixed up. And
Yep.
that's not saying you have to work with me. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
just saying because I'm just saying that everybody, because the first question I ask people is like, who are you working with? I know who your people are, right?
Yeah.
I know your people. I know who Rochelle's people are.
Yeah.
Some of your people are my people, right?
Yeah. We
And
all in a tight circle.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, but I always ask when someone say they're alone, I kind of look at them and go, why? You have never been alone in 2 decades. So why are you alone now?
It's a choice.
It's a choice. Exactly. It's a choice. And it comes down to a lot of education.
Yes.
And I was fortunate to have that guy write on a whiteboard to me and show me 13 people he was willing to give 80% of his contract to, because it wasn't about owning 100%. Because if he's getting a $10 million contract and he's getting $2 million, he still won.
Yeah.
And he's only doing 20% of the work. The other
Yeah.
people made, so he's passively making that. And we got to get our mindset around that. This table is way too big. You can't even see the end of it. And that's why I'm willing to go through. I didn't finish earlier what my wife gets on me about that. I'm willing to go through 100 people to find that one. Because the minute that I become, trust me, there's many days that I've been frustrated and people have, for the lack of a better words, have become distrustful.
Yeah.
And I got into my feelings and I went, I'm never working with that person again. And I ain't working with no one else again. I ain't working with nobody. And then you got to go, when you find that 1 out of 100, it's almost worth it sometimes. You just got to be smart about how you go through those 99.
Yeah.
So the onboarding right now is, some people might find it a little offensive, but I'm just protecting myself. I'm protecting my energy. I'm protecting you and I from not, being upset with each other, because doing business with friends can get real testy real quick, because
especially if there's no mutual understanding of what's, what is the expectation from, both sides. You could definitely see the feud between the two. Like, I want to do this, no, I want to do that, and then all of a sudden you have falling out. So
I mean, and this is the thing I tell people, and this is a good business hack, right? That I will tell you, Rochelle, you have Slate to Success, and a lot of this is why understanding the business piece, because people, may believe or disbelieve of how big CLA is. Doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But if you come to me believing that my business is 10 times bigger than yours, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So if you called me, and this is a quiz that I give people, if you called me and said, hey, Todd, I want you to work this thing with me because I know you have this skill that I need to insert into what the client want, and it's not what I do, so we're going to go. I'm going to be like, okay. See if I'm available. And then I'm going to be like, Rochelle, what is your daily rate for me?
Mm-hmm.
What is Slate to Success's daily rate?
Right.
You're going to tell me a number.
Yep.
I'm either going to say, okay, Rochelle, I can do that.
Yep.
Or I can't.
Right.
And that's just the end of it. I'm not ever going to go to the third question. Well, how much money are you making, Rochelle?
Yeah.
Because again, do you go to McDonald's and ask them how much they paid for the bread, the cheese, and the burger?
No.
And then you're going to negotiate on the cheeseburger?
No.
Or you ever go buy clothes from the clothing store and say, well, how much did y'all get this from China? Because I believe that it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest, if I was to leave a biggest lesson in small entrepreneurship that I've seen that gets into feuds, is that it's like, it doesn't matter if I make $2 million a year. If I choose to subcontract myself to you, I'm subcontracting myself to your company based on your company's values, your company's pay. I made that choice.
Right.
Right? So if you choose the same thing, if I call Rochelle and say, Rochelle, I got this thing for you, and you say, well, how much are you going to pay for your daily rate? This is what I pay for my daily rate, plus travel, plus this and that. You go, yes or no. But what I've seen people get twisted up really quick is they start counting how many peas are on the other plate at the table. And what you don't understand is, that's why I say you got to go out and get educated, is customer acquisition first and foremost is expensive. And no one knows how to account for that. Yeah. Every day, what you're doing right now is expensive. This is your time.
Yeah.
Your time has a value. Yeah. When you post on social media every day, it has a value. Now, say tomorrow someone sees this interview and they go, Rochelle, man, I want to have her come out. She's funny. She's energetic. Okay, now it's the first week of September. They're negotiating with you, but their event ain't until January maybe, and they're going back and forth. So you have probably interacted with these people before January 10 times.
Yep.
Which is time.
Yes.
Which is time. So say in January they want 2 speakers, and now you go out and now you call me and you go out together, and I go, well, we're going. All people see is the day of the event.
Right.
Both of us go out, and I go, well, Rochelle, you only paid me this, and they paid you this. You like, hey, bro, I've been dealing with these people for 5 months.
Right.
Like you've been dealing with these people for 24 hours.
Right.
I've been dealing with them for 5 months, which is the customer acquisition cost.
Yeah.
So the cost of getting a client is something that most entrepreneurs do not understand, that's factored into the equation.
Yeah.
So when they are explaining to their company, they're just talking about and people who are new into entrepreneurship, they're just looking at today.
Yeah.
There are people I'm working with that I literally been talking to for 8 months.
Mm.
We're on hold for a contract right now that we put in for 15 months ago.
Right.
So if I get the contract and then I start calling a bunch of people to work it, people are going to go, oh, no, bro, I have now had probably about $20,000 worth of time invested into this contract.
Right.
So don't count my peas. My peas been flying off the plate for 15 months. Like this, for instance, we launch a lot of programs. We just launched PMP, right?
I saw that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, guess how it took us a year to launch PMP in thousands of dollars. So my example is, the day you see a PMP class, there's been a year worth of work done to get to that day. Companies invest the time, the energy, the resources into doing that. So I belabor that point because as entrepreneurs, you have to know the big picture. Mm-hmm. If you don't know the big picture, you're going to go sideways with a lot of potential opportunities of people who are established once they do pick up the phone and you say something sideways and they go, oh, you're not ready to work with us.
Right.
You're not ready. You're a hobbyist. You're not ready to work for it because you got to know your business. Mm-hmm. And the last piece of that is, with that same vein of customer acquisition, you have to understand business ethics as an entrepreneur. And it's very easy to go sideways in business ethics. I have been sideways, not on purpose, and I've been educating a lot of people. For example, I work for at least 5 subcontractors. 5. Mm-hmm. Like, it's 5 people who have me on contract for various things. If I know I go out for this one company who have been subcontracting me for 3 years now, and I have a phenomenal relationship with them, which is the truth. These people have been phenomenal to me. So they contract me to go do all these things. Some things you see on CLA page is actually contracted through them. I have clients when I go someplace all the time. It's like clockwork. They'll be like, give me your car. We like what you're doing. Give me your card. We'll like you to come back. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If you want to contact me for my services, go through XXX company at this location. Because the minute I say, yes, contact me directly, I have committed an ethical violation.
That's because you're subcontracted through somebody else.
It's not illegal, unethical. It's unwritten unethical. Because, like I just explained, customer acquisition costs.
Yeah.
That is their client that they have spent months and months, maybe
Mm.
years getting.
Hmm.
I'm showing up 24 hours, I'm in and out.
Yeah.
Now, if I take that client from them, what do you think they're going to say? Now
Yeah.
they see, now what happens is the client wants to deal directly with me and I go take that client. What do you think my relationship with that company is?
Yeah.
Because it happened to me and it happened mistakenly. I,
Mm.
I subcontracted through all these people. I had someone do that, like, hey, it was like, hey, can we get your card? Yeah. And then they hit me up. And then they were like, hey, we would love you to come out and do this at this location. I'm like, cool. And I went through the whole process. And the company that originally subcontracted me to do that, they could see it. They found out because the people were kind of confused because they're like, they just thought they didn't care who, they just wanted me back out.
Right.
So when they kind of emailed that company too, kind of was emailing both of us, boy, I almost ruined a 3-year relationship
Wow.
because they called me and they were like, hey, bro, like, we heard you're going back out to XXX. I'm like, well, yeah. They were like, and that's where I first learned about the price of customer acquisition. I got educated that day.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's been one of our clients for years and years and years. We have a relationship with them. They probably didn't, but they say, hey, that's a no. You don't.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we have to
that's
be.
really good advice because I've never really, I mean, you think of it, but then you don't, because you get so caught up in the moment. Like, oh, you want to work with me again? No problem,
It usually happens. So I will tell you right now, I work with a lot of people, and it is a no for me, and it will get you in a lot of. I tell you that because all of us will be susceptible to that.
Ah.
Because I know very few people who will probably go in with the intention of doing that. Because if you're going with the intention of doing that,
Yeah.
then that's probably shady. But nobody is going to go in with the intention really of doing that because you're just like, oh, they want me to come back. But that's that business education piece that you have to understand well before. How did you even get here?
Right.
Nothing happens out of the blue. And sometimes it can be very sticky. You can be in breach of your own contract. And that's why you should read everything. When anybody wants to, I know you probably signed an NDA for some people you work
Oh
with.
yeah, I've signed plenty of
You
NDAs
have
over
to
the years.
read every word.
Yeah, you do.
I almost signed an NDA with someone who said I could not compete against them within 50 miles of anywhere they had a client.
What?
And I was like, okay, like that means I can't do a lot of things.
Wow.
I was like, I can't sign that, and I can't sign something because anywhere you have a client, I can't go within 50 miles in this particular place. What this particular 50 miles, no, say 250 miles. And this particular place would have taken me out of I couldn't compete against them for anything in Montgomery, Alabama. And I would have been like, that's a lot of the work I do. So that's not cool. So you just got to be careful of what you sign, be careful of your relationships, because a business relationship in this business is very hard to get.
Yeah.
And once you get it, once you get it, it's yours to keep or yours to absolutely destroy.
Yeah.
I've had, like I said, my business relationships are relationships I want to have for 20 years. So I will not sacrifice those relationships over pennies.
Yeah. So, what I was doing in the background, because I
Oh,
had
I
to
know.
do some background. I had to change my privacies on my Facebook community. So my Facebook community has been up in here. Okay, so first of all, let me go back to the top to make sure that I don't have any questions that we're in the middle of. Okay, so recognize Sharice. Thank you, my queen, for coming in tonight. We got Natalie here, who was in the building. Just trying to make sure that I shout out all the people that kind of looked in for us. So hang on, y'all. I see you. I just got to bring this stuff up. So this is my supervisor that I had when I was in Turkey. And this is,
I know her.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, she was like my first real true mentor. So she put here, I am always striving to be a better public speaker and facilitator. I started in church, didn't realize what my mom was instilling in me. I joined Toastmasters, certified mediator. My previous jobs helped me set up to speak publicly. Always want to do more to be comfortable in teaching, lecturing, etc. I try not to turn down opportunities.
She
That's what
owned
I'm
it.
talking about.
You get reps. I tell people that reps. Everybody know that's reps. Like I tell people, it doesn't matter. You got to get the reps because until you get super comfortable, I mean, you get to the point where you don't care if it's 2 or 2,000 people in the audience, right?
Yeah.
And you got to get reps in it. So, and that's another thing we didn't address. It's
Yeah,
free.
let's just go because you know what, these folks are just hanging out with us today.
Yeah,
They just like
free. Let's free. Like you know how much free stuff I did in the beginning, and that's you can't be too proud for free because
yeah,
free is never free. Even today, where I'm blessed to have opportunities to speak in some great venues for money, you never know if I'm actually doing it for free or for
yeah,
money
yeah,
because there are people who call me like there's opportunities like recent opportunity to speak to an international crowd of about I don't know, it's a few hundred folks that's coming up and they don't have any money. They said, hey, all we can pay for is your plane ticket. And I'm sorry. I'm like, I'll be there. You know why? Because there's people from 7 countries in there. It gives me an opportunity to practice my craft in front of a different group.
yeah,
And guess what? If you're still building your brand, you'll never stop building your brand. I
yeah,
tell people like, Chick-fil-A I talk a lot about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A might have a packed drive-through, but I watched 7 Chick-fil-A commercials yesterday doing college football. They still got commercials on TV.
yeah,
They still got to build their brand. They still got to gain followers. So don't ever get too big for free.
yeah.
Free just has to benefit you.
It does. So, for example, and I'll share my example. I just spoke on the Small Business Development Center's, platform. I've got 3 opportunities with them to just give a small presentation. It's free, and I'm like, but you know what? I know that there are business, you know, persons that are in there, and I know what the audience is. They have a large platform, so it will bring in folks who are interested in what you're doing. So yeah, like you do have to do free, and there's pay to plays. You
Yeah.
know, I've done pay to plays, meaning I pay a little bit of money to get on somebody else's platform that they got a big platform
Mhm.
so I can speak on it and then present and do workshops and all these other things. Why? Because I know who's going to be in the room.
Yeah. And it's very important. It's very important to understand again, back to understanding your business, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many, but this goes back to why we're on here so long. Just think about the power of this, right? And we've done it 3 or 4 times, you and I and
Hmm.
a small group of people. I tell people this all the time, especially when the thing that I wish I had in year 1 and year 2, which I did not have at all. I wish I had the mindset back then to really force the agenda to put people together to see the beauty of collaboration,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So the couple of sessions that you and I have been on that were accidents that we weren't even talking about, they're supposed to be other subjects.
Other stuff.
And we had some people on there who I think learned. I mean, we just all had just talking about things
Hmm.
and being real honest and transparent. And I got that in year 2 with the stranger groups, and I learned so much. But I'm like, all of us have so many things at this point that we know. I still don't know why we don't do enough to make sure everybody knows it. I still don't know. So
Well, that's the reason why I started to do this, to
mhm.
be honest with you, because so many people are asking me like, how do I do what you're doing? How do I even think about, and not even really starting a business. It was really about, being inspired in the transition. Like my transition it sucks. And I need I need help.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, you know what? I like to talk.
yeah,
Okay. I know a lot of people,
yeah,
and I know a lot of people who are doing amazing things and all day, every day. Why don't I just build a talk show around that? And then just, and see where that goes. Ain't nothing. I Zoom, I got StreamYard, y'all. You know how I get all this fancy stuff on here. But it is it's for the benefit, not only for people who are transitioning, but it's also a benefit for me because I get to learn from people. Like I'm learning all kinds of things that I didn't know that you just schooled us on, you know?
But
And
yeah. No, go. No, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I said because I didn't know. That's why I always preface things with I didn't know either. Though, like sometimes people want you to come off like you're arrogant and smart, and I'm not. That's not the case. It's like I'm telling y'all, I didn't know. The only difference between me and everyone else is I might be a year or two ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's no
Yeah.
other difference. I'm not more successful than you, Rochelle.
Mm-hmm.
I just learned a lot of bad. I just corrected a lot of bad habits before you did this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. We're no different,
Yeah.
and that's what I try to get across is like I keep going back to that is this competition thing, which I honestly did not like for
When you were
decades.
in the military.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was super unnecessary and it did not build the relationships that it should have with other people because
Well, yeah. And
most
but you realize that as soon as I don't know, I'll speak for me. As soon as I retired, the folks that I thought, were, we had a close relationship with, it was just for the time being. It was for
transactional.
transactional, so it wasn't, and I had to do some realization here that that system was developed for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot just go, well, I ain't got nobody looking out for me. I thought everybody would just be looking out for me. I thought people would just be calling me and tell me to come speak on their platforms. I built a business. So why don't you, like, I'm a former chief. And I'm like, and as soon as I had to stop and tell myself, like, come on now, girl. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There's so much more than just having folks that are in the military. I've done got opportunities outside of the military, that have been very well. That like these are really some great opportunities that I didn't see because I was so focused on that one community, that one audience.
Yeah, and I love the fact that I still get to do things in that, but that's like I told
Yeah,
people, that's not the core of what we do. I
yeah,
can tell you, I mean, I love the fact that I get to do that, but I get to do that most of the time, and a lot of other people get to do a lot of other great things, right, behind the
yeah,
scenes, and we're doing some other stuff. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm interested to see where the next 5 years go
yeah.
because if you look back
Well,
5 years,
what are you looking for in the next 5 years?
oh, me personally, I'm just saying for the industry of everyone that's
Oh, for the whole thing.
so in the next 3 years, I'm out. I'm just gonna I say that I shouldn't say that publicly, but when I say out, I'm not out of the business, but I will if everything goes, I will step aside into another role.
Yeah,
And that is my 3 year plan from now. I mean, we got 3 more years into that plan. And I think it'll be achievable for some of the things we're trying to do. And right now is why, every year I'm bringing on another person to groom. Right now, I have 2 people who are in their 30s and they're never been in the military.
mm-hmm.
They're amazing. And they're amazing young women.
Yeah,
And we've invested. I've sent them to school. I sent one of them to school for government contracting. And
okay,
and I can see one of them or both of them being me. And that's what we should be doing, right? My daughter is 27 years old. She's doing great. She's an accountant. I can see her, being in charge of this thing one day, hopefully,
mm-hmm.
if she ever wants to do this. She's about to be on my payroll now, starting in October. She's
Wow,
about to become an employee anyway.
yeah,
So for me, again, the greatest lessons I've ever had is because of you got to become humble. So if you're in the military, you can say I had to equate this. This guy didn't know what I was talking about because he was trying to talk to me like he didn't want to talk to me like I didn't know what I was doing. But the fact is, I didn't know what I was doing because he read all of the accolades. Oh, like you was in the military, you were like a chief and all of this stuff, right? And I tell people when I walk into the room in this life, I'm an airman basic.
Right.
And that's my mindset.
Yeah.
My mindset is never, ever, and I see people sometimes be, oh, no, I don't need to know that. Oh, I already know that. Oh, I already know that. No, I walk into the room like I'm in BMT.
Right.
I walk into every room because if they tell me something I already know, they may have said it in a different way.
Yeah.
Or they may have said something I already know that I thought I knew, but I really didn't know.
Right.
I never assume even the most even small
Littlest thing.
details. Tell me, and I actually will get a little bit hyper with people a little bit. I say, no, because they'll go, no, you don't. You probably already know. No, don't assume. Please don't assume I know anything.
Right.
Like I need to know everything. If you're going to talk to me like you're onboarding a 24-year-old that just graduated from college,
Yeah.
and you're bringing them into your business. I am a 24-year-old who just got this degree, and I just know theories.
Well, you say that because I'm going into this business accelerator program starting this month, and it's like a 3-hour once a week program. And that's exactly how I'm going to go into that. Like, even though I've been in this thing for like, a year ish, I don't know what I'm doing. All right. I could be doing everything wrong for all I know. And then you come in and you tell me, hey, this, and this. And so I have to be mature enough,
Yeah.
to say, let me take that information and see what I've been doing wrong, and let me start getting back on track to do something right.
And so I'm gonna put our time at about 12 more minutes. How about that?
12 more minutes. That's
Okay.
all we got, y'all. 12 more minutes up in here. If you got a question, you better put it in now before we come off of this.
And what I would tell you also is receipts. So I don't want to end this without talking about receipts. And this is a lesson learned for me too. I'm very. I know this is a podcast forever. I'm being very transparent. Any entrepreneur will tell you they took a lot of losses. I took tens of thousands of dollars in losses for no receipts. And what I mean by receipts, because I heard you say something earlier about you got paid to be on other people's things and stuff. If someone comes to you and say they can do this thing for you, I can make you better, or I'm a marketer, or I'm a optimization person, or I'm a whatever. Ask for receipts. Ask for receipts.
So you're talking about like testimonies, reviews,
something. So if I come to you and tell you, Rochelle, like perfect example, if I say, Rochelle, you a year in business. I've been watching Slay Queen. I've been watching your brand build. I can build your business to $300,000 in 18 months. I guarantee you, in 18 months, I can have your revenue up to $300,000. The first question you should look at for me is going, is your business making $300,000?
Right.
Or have you built other businesses?
Right.
If I'm your test case, then why are you charging me so much?
Why are you charging me so much? I should be in your beta program.
I should be in your beta. No, but I have fell to that trap more than once. And I'm just being, and most entrepreneurs, because I'm out there on social media, everybody on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn is selling you the idea that they can do everything for you. And even these in-person groups and everybody, and I'm not saying everybody is not, all I'm saying is ask for receipts.
Right.
Because once I figured that out and I started asking for receipts, 9 out of 10 couldn't provide receipts. So I'm like, okay, you're going to grow my customer base. And sometimes these are people you know. Just going to be honest with you. You're going to grow my customer base, which in turn grows my revenue, which in turn grows my business. Okay. So I'm going to pay you all X amount of thousands of dollars to do this. Can you show me what your strategy and your plan is to do that has worked with another client?
Yep.
I'll wait. Because what the better conversation is, if you can't do that and I'm your beta, then let's do it together.
Yeah.
Then let's do it together. And don't, because if you promise this and you don't deliver on this, then I just wasted my time. My business didn't grow. Now I'm side-eyeing you. And now now I'm just going, man, I just wasted $10,000.
So I got like a couple of stories to that too, right? Because I was just like, when you're starting out, people they kind of smell the blood in the water, right? They
Chumming.
they they're like, oh, she knew, he knew. All right, let me pull up in the LinkedIn DM messages. Let me like put in here like, hey, I saw that, da 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 da, and you want to breathe. Let's get on a call. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then when you do it, and it's like, maybe a month or two or whatever, then you like, I'm still at square one. I'm still where I was before. You done got my money. And
Mhm.
now I'm just left out here like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Because some folks are building products. And then as I saw, like they making these digital products, but they charge an arm and a leg. And I'm like, is this stuff gonna really work? Or I just wasted $30 printing this at UPS
Yeah.
because I wanted to have the booklet to download, but it ain't doing nothing for me.
Yeah. And
So you're right.
that's a good, like, when I hired my business operations manager, what I was so impressed, it was the first person I really worked with, to be honest with you, that wasn't in the military at the internal fix of my business.
Yeah.
First person. And at this time, I'm like, man, I'm tired, of this. And you know what? I asked her for receipts,
Yeah.
and she provided 6 receipts of
Yeah.
6 clients. And not only that, she set a meeting up with one of the clients so I can talk to them.
There you go.
And not only did she set the meeting up with the client that I talked to, now that client that she set up, we're in business together.
Yes.
And she was like, well, I think I'm gonna set you up with her because y'all do kind of the same thing. But
Right.
but not only she delivered on the promises that she has made, like tenfold, to the point where I said, I'm not paying you enough, I'm gonna pay you more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I increased her pay
Right.
without her accent, is that I learned right there the difference in how I've operated 2 years prior, and why
Yeah.
I kept going in and out of these relationships. Because again, remember me, spitting the handshake. You tell me you can do this thing, I'm going to believe you.
Yeah.
But if you cannot run a business that way, because every time I don't believe you anymore, it's cost me time, it's cost me money, it has set me back. It is now my timeline has started over. So the best thing I can tell y'all out here, I don't care if they're your best friend, I don't care if they're your mom, I don't care if they're your sister. If they come to you and say that they can optimize or do this or do that or take you to the next level, please give me your receipts.
Yes.
And if they don't have receipts, the door is never closed. For me, at least, if you don't have receipts, I go, okay, you don't have receipts. So let's figure out how we can do this together.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean I'm not going to pay you. I'm just not going to pay you as a person with receipts.
Right.
Don't charge me receipts if you ain't
Right.
got none. Now,
Gotta walk the talk and talk the talk in these business streets.
yeah, exactly. Like, so if you starting up and experimenting, then I'm paying you the experiment price.
Right.
That's only fair.
I just said,
If I'm
yeah,
if I'm paying you the professional price, then I need to go hire a professional.
right.
So, and that's for anything. That's for digital. I mean, that's for print products. I just had, Mary, research. Like I know Mary was on here. I don't know if she's still on here. I was paying out the wazoo for print. We do courses. Everything is print. Man, I was paying so much print. Mary could have let me flounder. Ain't really was nothing she had to do. She was teaching the course for me. He giving me the print material. I'm gonna go teach this.
Right.
She said, hey, there's a cheaper way for you to do this. I'm like, where? She's like, this is this company that delivers the stuff. And it'll probably be a 45%. 45%.
Yeah.
You know how much money I pay in print costs? And I'm like,
Printing is a full business.
but she was able, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I went to this printing company. I went to this thing because this girl convinced me that this was the printing company I should go to. She worked at the printing company, of course. And here comes Mary was like, no, there's a better way. And that's what I call collaboration, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I saved so much money because somebody even came, she even though we had two different, business, I've been doing it longer, but you can learn something from something every day.
Every day.
And so for me, I'm just like, receipts is it's so critical right now, because there are a lot of sharks in the water who are going to tell you, and I'm telling you, and I'll tell you this last thing, with all of these things out here, with the explosion of AI, you're putting
Oh,
on you're putting on a whole podcast right now by yourself, and it looks great.
yeah.
3 years ago, this would not be possible. You got your banner down there, you got your logo. This right here is a finished product of a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go back. Now we got over 2 hours in here. You can go back and make this into 10 episodes if you want to.
You sure can.
And so a lot of entrepreneurs today have so many things that they have at their fingertips that were not available 3-4 years ago. And I tell you, you don't. So it's so many things you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
And save that revenue and save that money and invest that money back into things like products.
Yeah.
Invest that money back into things like, how do you show up at something you're going to speak to? Like, like books, like one thing. And for those of you who want to be authors out there, I know we got a couple of minutes. I'm touching on everything real quick with that. For those of you who want to be there, if you look back at my social media, people will probably be like, man, he don't ever post any of his books that he sells. I rarely ever do.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely ever do. I got a coloring book. I got a children's book.
Yep.
I got all these books. I rarely post it because that's not the reason. That's not the strategy that I sell books. So for me, and it's hard to sell a book by just selling a book. And I'm going to give away this entrepreneur hack.
Here we go.
If you're a speaker, facilitator, or educator, it doesn't matter. The best marketing dollars you ever can spend is a very low print cost. Most books are printed at $1 to $2 a book. That's just the truth. I'm just going to tell you.
It is the whole truth.
I might sell this to you for $10. It costs $2.32 to print.
That's
and
right.
I can sell it for more than that. This month alone in August, there's over 550 of my books, a combination of them, whatever book that's out, because everywhere I go, I don't sell books. I'm going to repeat that. Everywhere I go, I don't sell books. When I show up, the book is already sold.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't sell books.
Yeah.
When I show up, my book is already sold.
Yeah.
So if I go somewhere and I got 200 books, it's already sold as part of me being there.
Part of you being there.
So there's 200 of my books that's going to be on somebody's desk.
Yeah.
Somebody's house.
Yep.
Somebody. This year.
I meant to ask you, are you carrying all your books?
Not,
you send them.
I'm mostly, according to how many?
Yeah.
So I always carry 20, 30 books in a suitcase.
Yeah.
I got a book suitcase, but I ship most of them.
Yeah.
But this year, I think we probably are over 5,000 books this year.
Yeah.
Over 5,000-6,000 books this year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you're going to try to sell a book by just pushing, you're going to be in trouble.
Yes, you are. And I've learned, this the strategy. So one event that I went to, they wanted me to speak. I said, hey, I got a book. Let me put a book in each one of your attendees' hands. All right. And they're like, oh, yeah. And so I sold 60 books right out there, for that event. But I go to pop-ups, right? And, sitting there, people just don't want to buy the book per se. Sometimes you have to upsell. So maybe you have a journal. Maybe you have, look, y'all know what goes on in here. Maybe you have a mug, maybe you have some other products that go along with the book that gives you a showcase of your brand.
Yeah.
So I think that authors get a little bit discouraged when they wrote a book and they're like, I'm not selling these books. Well, you're not strategizing the book. The book should be a business card per se.
Yeah. And so I've seen that, and that's a free hack for you. I've seen plenty of people, I just was talking to someone the other day, and it's not, we were talking in this conversation, a good friend of mine, he wrote a book, and we were talking, and we were out, and he said, man, and I was talking about the 3 circles of friends and family, the admirers and the strangers. And he was like, man, I thought I was going to kill it, man. I did all this stuff and I put it out there. He said, man, I sold 17 books the first week. And I was like, yeah, man. I said, that's normal. I said, there's 50,000 self-published books coming out like every week.
Every week.
And I said, so after you get to the friends and families, it's a struggle. I said, so, and he's entering this space. And I said, well, the strategy is, and it's just, if you do the education on speakers that have books get paid more.
Yeah, they do.
Speakers with books are more attractive to be hired, all of these different things. But when I see people going to speak places, they'll never talk about their book. Their book is nowhere to be found. And I'm like, what a missed opportunity. I don't go anywhere in the world where one of these 5 books is not there. It's just not a part of my strategy.
Right.
And if you're writing a book to not get into people's hands, then stop writing books. I mean, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm saying you can find better use of your time.
Yes, exactly.
Because if
you want them in people's hands, because some people just writing books just, maybe because it's their healing journey and they writing a book. Right?
Why not? Me was a healing journey.
Yeah.
But I've sold almost 8,000 of them.
Yeah.
But that because it was a strategy along with it. And it's continuous strategy. I don't post my books on social media because I know honestly the effort of posting it on social media over and over again, I'm probably gonna get like 10 people to buy it.
10 people.
But when I show up somewhere like at AFSA and I had 200 books, they were gone before I can even like crack open the box almost. because it's a different. I mean, it's a difference than being there and people might be like, oh, you're giving those away. Not really.
Yeah. They cost, but not like, what I would probably cost if it's on Amazon.
Yeah, but somebody already paid for them before I got there. They were sold before I got there. So, but not only that, there's an audience now that you can get. And if you're a speaker, you really got, it's not, and I'm not going to say it's the word greed, right? So what I tell you, if you're a speaker and someone's going to pay you a speaker fee and your book is $1.50 a book, if you gave away 50 books, what is that? Like $75?
Mm-hmm.
So don't look at the money you could have made. Look at the 50 people that's going to walk away with your book.
Yeah.
And all you did is
little card in with the services that you offer.
Exactly. And it's $75 that you have literally tucked into the fee. So it costs $75 to market for 1 hour on social media if you do it right. So not that old saying that all money ain't good money. You got to pay into your own brand to have a brand. And if you don't, like I said, Richard, I give you, and I don't want to alienate anybody, but it's like 3 of y'all. If I'm gonna come up with an award in December because we are from the military, we like awards, right? And I'm gonna come. I would tell you like a Brandon Award, like you leading the charge in Brandon. Like, oh yeah, I'm telling you, like it is not. I don't know too many people that don't know Rochelle Pink Slay. And those are the 3 things that come to mind. They're like, Rochelle, Rochelle Slay, Pink. She always wearing pink. I mean, you have done a marvelous job of making people recognize who you are.
Because you know what? I was mentored. Don't be unforgettable.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. If you are unforgettable in this space, you're going to be miserable because no one is going to know the best kept secret, right? If you continue to show up just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, I don't show up like everyone else. And there's a point to all this.
So why do you think, to that point, why do you think I show up in front of thousands of people or hundreds of people or whoever with Chucks on in a suit?
That's right.
Because now when I show up, people are looking for what kind of Chucks I got on.
Yeah. It's a thing.
And I say that to people who are listening is but she nailed it. Like, and I go back to my point, well, there's nothing different in this industry. No one has made up any new groundbreaking leadership coaching. There's no new theories really. There's
None.
nothing new. Simon Sinek just didn't make up nothing new. We all are just new people
New people.
that have uniqueness to connect to an audience.
That's right.
That's all this is. This is, I
Yeah.
mean, passion, purpose, uniqueness, branding, audience. That's
That's
all
it.
this is.
That's it.
And
And the people that are assigned to you will come to you. The people that are supposed to be for you will go, you
absolutely,
have been the person I've been waiting for. And they will go, they will gravitate to your, and I call it ecosystem.
yeah,
And they will be in your place. And these are strangers, like you talked about. And
yeah.
it's just absolutely just a wonderful thing to see, Um, look, they can't wait to listen again. We're gonna have another two-hour podcast here soon.
I gotta
But
go eat some noodles, so we gonna
yeah, I gotta go eat too because I didn't eat dinner. But
yeah.
thank y'all, first of all, for coming up and showing up for tonight's conversation. This was a Slay amazing conversation with Todd tonight on the Slay to Success talk show with your girl. Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway. And so next week, y'all, we will have another phenomenal leader to come on stage and to present and let us know how they're living on their own terms. All right. And they are slaying it in the game. So don't, okay, please do not miss out on this opportunity to come back to us Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all know what time it is. All right. So keep on slaying. All right. Until you can't slay no more. And she said, Kim said, I tune in late, but love this time. And we'll be back. And so get your pens and papers ready and make sure you listen, subscribe, and you are sharing. Okay. Because some folks need this information and you never know who might glean some insight from. So we will see you all later. Have a great evening. Bye.